You've probably heard of the quadruplicities, cardinal, fixed, and dual signs, but if you want to know more clearly and deeply what these actually mean and why certain signs have the quadruplicities that they have, and how this all blends beautifully with the zodiac's triplicities and binaries and rulers, then stay tuned. I believe the classical zodiac of astrology is one of the greatest works of art humanity has yet to conceive. Its 12-fold equal dimensions, its rulership by the 7 planets, its stratification of gender binaries, and its patterns of elemental triplicities and modal quadruplicities, each one is so balanced and symmetrical, and each one interacts with the others so gracefully, to weave an incredibly rich symbolic framework that reflects the depth and complexity of life itself. So far in this series, we've had 1 intro and 4 episodes, so we've covered 5 topics, right? In the intro, we looked at the concept that astrology is beautiful and artistic. In the first episode, we looked at the romantic simplicity that creates the 12 zodiac divisions themselves, the actual dimensions, etc. The second episode, we talked about the symmetrical rationale determining which planets take possession of which zodiac divisions. And in the third episode, we explored the rich spectrum of gender expressed by the zodiac. And in the previous episode, the 4th episode, we looked at the beautiful balance of the 4 primordial elements emanating into the signs from the 4 cardinal directions. Now let's turn our attention towards the quadruplicities of the zodiac. Now, I tend to avoid the big and confusing word quadruplicity and instead call these the modality or just the mode of a sign. It's the mode in which the sign operates when it pursues its goal. So bearing that in mind, let's see what these modes are, where they come from, and that will help us understand the different modes of operation for the signs. First, let's figure out where these modes come from. What imparts a certain modality to a certain sign? Why is Aries a cardinal sign, for example? It all has to do with the 2 solstices and the 2 equinoxes that form the 4 key points, the tropos, at the heart of the zodiac. As you can see, this is the famous cardinal cross of the 4 cardinal directions, east, west, up, and down. And this is represented celestially by the 2 solstices and equinoxes. And if that's over your head or it doesn't make sense, doesn't feel intuitive, go and watch episode 1, please, because it's fully explained there. Now, the 3 modes, cardinal, fixed, and dual, reflect the 3 ways that the sun operates in relation to these 4 points. The first mode is called cardinal. This is the way the sun operates when it first crosses a cardinal border. It has an ambitious feeling. It's entered new territory, so it's seeking out new objectives. The second mode is called fixed, and that's how the sun operates after it's been inside a cardinal border for a while. It has a determined, reliable, steady feeling. It's sticking to its goals. It's not getting distracted. And finally, the third mode is called dual. It has a multiplicitous nature, trying to focus on 2 things at once. This is how the sun operates when it's about to complete 1 cardinal course and about to begin another. It's a little bit fixed because it's still trying to complete its current course, but it's also a little bit cardinal because it's preparing to begin a new journey. So it's neither fixed nor cardinal, but a unique blend of both fixed and cardinal in one thing. Now, the zodiac signs which correspond to these segments have the modality that the sun displays in each of those segments. And that's why Aries is cardinal, Taurus is fixed, Gemini is dual, and so forth. Now, the reason these are called quadruplicities is because there are 4 signs quad to each of these modes. They're groups of 4, so they're called quadruplicities. So since there's 4 of each, this means they're going to form squares, 4 corners to a square. So there's 3 modes, 4 in each. That means we're going to have 3 squares in the zodiac. Here's the first square. the cardinal signs. Those are the 4 signs that begin at one of the 4 cardinal points. So Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. And here's the second square, the fixed signs. These are the 4 that are in the middle of their quadrant. That's Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. And finally, the third square are the dual signs. These are the signs that end at a cardinal point. So the cardinal signs begin at a cardinal point. The dual signs end at a cardinal point, and the fixed signs are in between. So the dual sign square includes Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Now let's take a look at some of the interesting patterns. What you'll notice right away when you look at the squares is that every mode has all 4 elements. This is one of the beautiful, perfect, balanced things about the zodiac. Every mode has each of the 4 elements. So here you see the 4 cardinal signs. One of them is fire, one of them is water, one of them is air, the other one is earth. Here you see the 4 fixed signs. One of them is fire, one of them is water, one of them is air, one of them is earth. And here you see the 4 dual signs. Guess what? One of them is fire, one of them is water, one of them is air, one of them is earth. That's cool. That's perfect balance. Now the thing about these forming a square, which is also interesting, is, as you know from previous episodes, squares are not very compatible. Now, with the elements, we figured that out because, well, sure, water is not very compatible with fire, right? So they're square to each other. And air is not compatible with water. You can't breathe or speak underwater. And air is dry and water is wet. So we figured out the square with the elements in the previous episode, but you can also figure it out with the modes. What happens with the squares is that let's say they're in the cardinal square, both people who have this cardinal sign, they'll be trying to give orders to each other. Or if they're both in fixed, then both will be waiting to follow an order. The dual square is not as bad as the other ones, but basically the nature of the square, from the point of view of how the modes are working in that square, the people tend to step on each other's toes. Another interesting thing about the perfect balance of these squares is that every one of the modes has 2 of each gender, which goes a bit without saying if it has all 4 of the elements, because as we learned in the elements episode, element equals gender. But just to show you how nice this is, here are the cardinal signs. It has 2 male signs, Aries and Libra, and it has 2 female signs, Cancer and Capricorn. So there's going to be 2 kinds of each mode. There's going to be a male version of the mode and a female version of the mode. Cardinal of Aries and cardinal of Cancer is, looks the same on paper or sounds the same in theory, but it's different in the actual flavor because Cancer is cardinal femininity and Aries is cardinal masculinity. And then when you throw the elements in there, you're going to see why Cancer, cardinal water femininity is different than cardinal earth femininity in Capricorn, etc. All of the nuances that you need to know about the zodiac signs come from simply understanding these beautiful basic patterns in the zodiac. Nothing is really complex. Everything is just interwoven and beautiful. So again, if you look at the fixed signs, there's 2 male signs, that's Leo and Aquarius, and there's 2 female signs, Taurus and Scorpio. If you look at the dual signs, there's 2 male signs, Gemini and Sagittarius, and there's 2 female signs, Pisces and Virgo. Yet another beautiful thing about the patterns that we have here is that every element has all 3 modes. So now let's look at it from the point of view of the trines that form between the elements in the zodiac. Here we're looking at the fire trine. The fire trine has all 3 modes. It's got Aries, which is cardinal, Leo, which is fixed, and Sagittarius, which is dual. Now let's look at the earth trine. It's got all 3 modes. Taurus, which is fixed, Virgo, which is dual, and Capricorn, which is cardinal. Now we can look at the air sign. It has all 3 modes. Gemini, which is dual, Libra, which is cardinal, and Aquarius, which is fixed. And guess what? The water trine. Cardinal, Cancer, fixed. Scorpio, dual. Pisces. It's really perfectly balanced. Another interesting thing before we move on is that if we look at this from the point of view of the gender and see how that interacts with the modes, each gender has all three of the modes, but only has complementary elements, doesn't have all four of the elements. So take a look. Now you're looking at the male gendered signs. Aries, for example, is cardinal, Gemini is dual, Leo is fixed. And then it has Libra cardinal, Sagittarius dual, and Aquarius fixed. So it has 2 cardinal signs, 2 dual signs, and 2 fixed signs. Perfectly balanced. But you'll notice all the signs are either red or white. They're either fire or air. That's because the elements themselves are what imparts the gender. So it's either fire, which is extreme masculinity, or air, which is mid-spectrum masculinity. And if you look at this from the point of view of the female signs, guess what? It's the same thing. You have fixed Taurus, cardinal, Cancer, and dual Virgo. Cardinal, fixed, dual. And the other 3 signs, Scorpio is fixed, cardinal, Capricorn is cardinal, and Pisces is dual. 2 of each. Perfect balance. But again, here you only have blue and green. Because that's what it means. That's what femininity means. It means earth and water. So this is the thing that's really compelling and attractive and beautiful about the Zodiac as it is, without being tampered with by half-baked ideas of modern people that don't actually even know the basic fundamentals. It's so beautiful. One last thing to leave you with in terms of how these patterns are just fantastic and how they interact with each other is the pattern of rulership of the signs. The planets that rule the signs, the way they interact with these modes and elements is quite interesting. And I'll mention it here. As far as the dual signs go, they're only ruled by 2 planets, Mercury and Jupiter. This is very important for understanding the nature of the dual sign. The nature of the dual sign is finishing one thing while looking to start another thing, right? The nature of the dual sign is neither fully committed to fixed nor fully committed to cardinal, but trying to see how both cardinal and fixed work together. So what that means is the nature of a dual sign is very intelligent and observant and wise and patient. This is why you have Mercury, the intellect, and Jupiter, the wisdom, ruling these signs. No other planets rule these signs. Also, Mercury, which is the most balanced planet itself, how could it possibly rule a fixed sign or a cardinal sign? It'd be totally uncomfortable in that place. So Mercury and Jupiter rule the dual signs. Then the other signs are either fixed or cardinal. Well, Venus and Mars rule the fixed and the cardinal signs, which are located at the equinoxes. So there's this young feeling in the equinox, which is because the equinox is birth. For the southern hemisphere, it's the descending equinox. For the northern hemisphere, it's the ascending equinox. But both of the equinox represent the spring, the birth. So it's a youthful feeling at the equinox, and we have these young male and female planets. The other 4 fixed and cardinal signs, those are ruled by the luminaries and Saturn. So it's also telling, the luminaries, they take the extremely powerful fixed and cardinal signs, which are located at the solstice. The luminaries take the upper solstice, the bright solstice. And Saturn, which is the underground ruler, the ruler of the masses, the people, he takes control of the solstical cardinal and fixed signs, which are at the low solstice. So I hope this video deepened your understanding and appreciation of what the 3 modal quadruplicities are and why particular signs have the particular mode that they do. Knowing this really deepens our intuitive understanding of what the signs signify. And appreciating the way all these zodiac patterns intersect with each other really gives us a sense of awe at the delicate balance and intricate beauty in the fundamental foundations of classical astrology. I hope this video helped you appreciate one of the many beautiful symmetrical aspects of the classical zodiac, and how it interacts so gracefully with other zodiacal facets to weave an incredibly rich symbolic lattice that is truly one of the greatest creative works of art humanity has ever conceived. If you like this video, you can use this playlist to watch all the videos in this series. And of course, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave some comments. Thank you so much.